Hi everyone, welcome to another PlaceOS live product update. My name's Jeremy, I'm the head of product here at PlaceOS, and I'll be looking after you again on this live stream. It feels like just the other day that we did our last one. It's surprising how quickly the months fly by, particularly at this time of year. So here we are again. Tonight we'll be joined by our CTO and co-founder of PlaceOS, Steve Vontakic. Steve is going to talk to us about some exciting stuff that we're doing in the AI space around PlaceOS, some of the features that are going to be coming to the platform. You may have seen a little sneak peek of them in potentially our newsletter or on some LinkedIn posts. But Steve's going to go through that tonight with us in a little bit more detail. As always, wherever you're joining us from this evening or this morning, feel free to post any questions on your streaming platform of choice. They'll come through, and we can deal with those as we go along through this session. And if you're watching it on the replay, if you're not watching us live, feel free to reach out to us either via our help desk or via your account manager. If you do have questions from some of the stuff that you see tonight, and we'll be happy to go through that with you. To get things started, I'm going to just quickly demo another small product enhancement that we've made to the platform. As we've spoken about, if you've joined us for the last couple of live product updates, we've been doing a lot of work around our concierge and uplifting the ability for end users to do a lot more management themselves. Historically, we've seen in PlaceOS, there's been a lot of configuration that's been done via our back office interface, via metadata and various other methods of configuration. We've been trying to streamline that process and really enable people to make a lot of the changes themselves. We've been using our concierge interface for that. So the one that we've looked at in this month's product release is the management of emergency contacts within a building. So typically we would expect that those will be fire wardens for building floors, first aiders. You obviously may also have your own, depending on your region and your organization structure, of people that you may need to contact or locate within a emergency scenario. So as I said, traditionally with PlaceOS, it's been a little bit tricky, some would say, to configure the emergency contacts within the platform. We're now really excited to bring that through into our concierge facilities management. So in our concierge interface, you can see we've got the facilities management tab now, and down the bottom here, we've got the new emergency contacts tab. This is a pretty straightforward interface for people to configure. Basically, you can see here the emergency contacts that we've already set up in our organization. So we've got a fire warden, and we've got another member who's a fire warden and a first aider. You can see here that Alex is a fire warden for all floors, and Lynn's a first aider and fire warden for level 1 of this particular building. To add a fire warden or an emergency contact is really straightforward. We just click the add contact button. What we have here is a user directory search, so you don't have to put in any additional information. Just start typing any users that may be part of your organization. You'll see that the platform will automatically locate them. So now we've got Grady. We can put in a phone contact number if this is populated in his user profile. In this case, it's as your Active Directory. We would get that phone number as well. This user, in this case, doesn't have a phone number. We can select the levels of which we want Grady to be a emergency contact. So we can go to level 1. And then we can select the role. So you can see we've got comms officer, fire warden, first aider. To add a role is really simple. We just click the add role, type in the role name that we want to give them in that section there. For this example, we'll say that Grady is going to be a fire warden only, and then we'll save that. So we can see now we've added Grady, and he's coming up as a fire warden for this particular building. So it's as simple as that to go through and not only add your emergency contacts, but also edit them. So Grady was now a fire warden, but he'd moved to a different level of the building. We can simply update that on his record and say that he's no longer a fire warden on level 1. He now resides on the integrate floor, so that's where he's going to be responding as a fire warden. So that's really as simple as it is to configure up the emergency contacts within your organization. This is obviously done per building as well. So we can change our locations. You can see at the moment we're in the Sydney office of our test environment here. So if you did have multiple offices in various different regions, they're all configurable based on the office building itself. And then, as I said, we can delve down into the levels as well to make sure that we get the people on the right floor. This obviously is not much use if your end users can't locate these people when they do require them in an emergency. So this feature is really designed to work with real-time location services. So we would be looking at something like Cisco Meraki potentially that can track the users through your building. In which case, when someone requires a first aider or a fire warden, it would actually provide them with a real-time location based on that user. So at the moment, you can see if we search for Grady, he's only a user. So if we refresh, we should see his new role come through now into our space. So you can see Grady's a fire warden. If we were actually hooked up to a real environment with location services, we would be able to select Grady and locate him, but it's obviously coming at this point in time. So as I said, it's really designed to complement real-time location services. Obviously, you could use it in other ways. If we hooked up to something like WebEx and made a real-time call, or via Teams to that particular first aider or that fire warden, you would be able to contact them when you need them that way if you didn't have location services. But obviously, as I said, with location services, you get that enhanced experience of being able to locate that user in real time within your building. As I said, it's really quite a simple process now of configuring up those emergency contacts within your building, and then allowing your users to be able to search for and locate them within the physical environment. Pretty neat feature. As I said, we've changed that dynamic and brought this back into being able to be configured via our concierge interface. We are putting a lot of effort, as I said, into moving a lot more of that configuration into our concierge. So you can already see, obviously our region, building levels and room management is all within concierge now. Our desk management, parking, catering, and now obviously emergency contacts as well. If you decide that a user within your environment doesn't need to be a facilities manager, but they are a concierge or a floor host, they will just see the bookings tab for the bookings areas that they're responsible for. So they won't have access to any of this particular configuration. In the next couple of months, we will be making this more granular as well. So you can actually appoint users to be emergency contact admins or building admins or whatever it might be. So that's another feature that's currently coming down the pipeline. But I would expect at this stage that our emergency contact feature will be released in our December release. So within the next week or so at this stage, we'll have that out into production. So any of our clients that are currently using PlaceOS Workmate solution, our hosted solution, that will roll out when that December release becomes available if you are using emergency contacts. Otherwise, if you are interested in using it and don't have it currently configured, feel free to reach out and we can walk you through getting that emergency contact system working within your PlaceOS environment. So that's all I wanted to show, nice and easy. The main attraction tonight is obviously talking about all things AI, and how that's going to look within the PlaceOS environment. As I said, we're joined tonight by Steve, who is the CTO and co-founder here at PlaceOS. Steve and some of our product development team have been doing quite a bit of work of late over the last couple of months of looking at how we put AI into PlaceOS. Obviously cognizant of the fact that AI is coming to a lot of platforms that we use. We wanted to make sure that we did it in the right way that benefited our users and also set us up for more enhanced AI inclusion in the future as well. So there's been a lot of work that's been done very specifically on the back end of the platform before we've even got to making that user facing, which is the point that we're at now. And you'll likely see that with Steve in just a moment. But we are really excited to be bringing some of the AI stuff into the Place ecosystem. And hopefully having that released early next year in a production ready state somewhere around January or February to go live with those AI features. But I won't hold it up any longer. I'll hand over to Steve. I know he very much loves talking about all things AI. So Steve, over to you.
Thank you, Jeremy. So today I'll be demoing the start of our journey with natural language interfaces. We're actively working towards a Windows plugin. So what I demo to you today, you'll eventually be able to do straight from your desktop. You can see that Copilot's already shipping with Windows. So shortly we'll have an add to Copilot button, and you won't actually have to open our app to perform any of these actions. So I'll start with a quick demo of the product, and then I'll jump into a bit of the technical backend. Effectively, this just exposes any of our product's capabilities to the AI. So I can ask it a question. So it can be a compound statement, so because it's AI, it just understands what I want. And so you can see the actions that it's taking based on what I've asked it. And I'll explain how these actions work in a moment. But you should see that it's got to booking the desk. If we jump over to tomorrow, we can see that desk booking's gone through because I didn't have a desk. Now, what I'll do is I'll jump into the backend and just show you how it performs these functions. Actually, I probably should start with a quick demo of a quick overview of how PlaceOS works on the back end. So PlaceOS works as a collection of drivers or modules, as we call them, in systems. And the sort of core system for every building is our services system. And there's one of these per building. In this case, we've created these LLM interfaces. So LLM's our logic, and then we have our scheduling information and our workplace information, just exposing like your calendaring system to the ChatGPT, and our workplace, like desk bookings and visitor management, stuff like that, to ChatGPT via this LLM module. And effectively, this LLM module searches for anything that implements chat functions. And this is an example of one of our drivers in the code that sits behind that list of modules. In this case, it's just an example to-do list that I whipped up just to sort of simplify it. And this actually works. So if I was to put this module into the system, you could start adding to-dos. So effectively, you just describe what the LLM, the chat function, does, and then give it some tasks, or give it some things that ChatGPT can do. So this then is exposed to our ChatGPT interface, and when you ask a question like this, it takes all that data that we've got in our backend, decides what information it needs, pulls in the function information based on the query that you've asked, and then runs those functions. And it does this all without us having to tell it how to use the system. So all we've done is given it book a desk function, and it knows that it has to use that function. But before it does, it's got, look, what are my day's bookings, and so I can ask it reasonably complex questions. So now I'll try asking it a much more complicated question, or give it a much more complicated scenario. Let's clear that. And I'll jump to Monday just so you can sort of see that nothing's there and it all happens live. So I'm asking it, can you book a meeting room for Linda? And I'm giving it no extra context. It doesn't know who Linda is. And on Monday at 4 p.m. So this is a very complicated question or task, effectively. So obviously, if you had a personal assistant, they'd know exactly what to do. But for the AI, it has to look at that and say, okay, well, I've got to find out who Linda is. I've got to look at everyone's availability on Monday. I've got to find a meeting room that has capacity for at least 2 people and book it and make sure it's also free and book it at 4 p.m. And even the fact that I'm saying Monday, it has to work out. It has to know what is today, how far away is Monday, or what is the date of Monday. And then it has to build, has to make the actual API requests. So we can see all the actions that are going on based on the queries that it's doing. And now this is the interesting part. So it might actually have to create the event multiple times because it's a complicated function and it makes mistakes. But we provided enough information that it can actually recover from those mistakes. So it gets error information. And it's like, oh, I needed to include a name, or I was missing this field. So it's having a time trying to create that booking. In my testing earlier, it only took 1 or 2 attempts. Okay. And there you go. So it succeeded. So just giving it that tiny little bit of information in the query, it was able to go and discover who Lydia was. In our demo platform, we've only got 1 person of every name. But if there were 2 Lydias, it would actually have come back and asked, which Lydia did you want me to book for? And let's say I needed a desk for that day as well. Because it's a conversational AI, it knows that I still mean Monday. And so you can see it's searching for levels. And based on that information, it'll get the list of desks for the levels, find a desk for me, and then book that desk. And there you go. As you can see, that desk booking's come through. You can effectively ask it anything. And if our workplace app has the capability, the AI can use the functionality and make it happen. I guess it's probably worthwhile opening it up to audience questions potentially, Jordy.
Yeah, absolutely. If anyone's got any questions, feel free to, as I said, put them in the platform. We're going live on a few different platforms, so put them into the live stream that you're watching on. If you do have any questions, and we'll get them through on our end, and we can address them. The next logical question from implementing, workplace AI in terms of I want to book a desk and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, it was evident from your demo that significantly cuts down the time that it takes for PlaceOS users to perform an action rather than filling out a form, which has been the traditional way that we do a lot of tasks in web apps. Being able to give it some natural language input. What do you see the extension beyond its use case in terms of booking a room or booking a desk for PlaceOS?
Yeah, so because it's completely customizable, so every function that's available to that AI is both limited to whichever system or systems you decide to constrain it to. So in this case, it's being constrained at a building level, but you could put it into individual like meeting rooms and then have Whisper for voice interaction and control the meeting room with your voice. So you're getting to the point where you can perfectly control a meeting room just with natural language.
The big difference for us, right, is that you look at, obviously Alexa and those kind of products exist in the market, and you can say, turn on my TV or whatever. I guess the big game changer with PlaceOS is we have the ability to integrate into so many different, air conditioning, HVAC systems, security systems, car park sensors, movement sensors, meeting room hardware. So you can start to see obviously how that expands out to the voice cues or the input that you could provide to some kind of AI in PlaceOS.
Well, and you can't really use Alexa in corporate meeting rooms because it's not designed for that. I mean, there might be. I feel like they do have an API, but it's not very easy to use or user friendly or anything. And ChatGPT just has better natural language processing as well. But I guess the main takeaway here is that this will end up in Windows Copilot. So that virtual assistant will just be on your desktop. You don't have to open anything. You can just type, please book a meeting room for Linda and I on Monday at 3 p.m. Or if you don't say that, it'll ask you what time. And then you leave it, continue doing whatever work you're actually doing. And Copilot takes it from there.
Yep. And then we obviously can chain actions to that in PlaceOS. So if you don't have a desk booked for that particular day and you are coming into the office and you said, I'm not coming into the office, the AI can go off and do all of those various different things for you, potentially activate a staff badge and whatever else. I guess if we look at this from the flip side as well, because PlaceOS has got two very distinct use cases in the built environment. In terms of our analytics, we obviously capture a significant amount of data, and that's obviously increased based on the integrations that we have into the system, so network integrations and all of those kind of things. It looks like there's certainly the opportunity that we could wrap the AI over our analytics. So rather than having a whole bunch of dashboards and graphs and charts and stuff, we could just ask it, which is the busiest meeting room in my company.
Or book me a desk in the cooler part of the building.
Absolutely. Once we sort of cross this first milestone, which is getting that natural language and that ability for PlaceOS to perform some of those actions, we can, you can see how this is really going to sort of start to take a center stage in terms of the platform and what it can do for people, which is really exciting. I think, did you have a second part to this, Steve, with image recognition as well?
Yeah, so it's probably a bit early to actually demo anything, but I can go through our slides. And I mean, so I just threw together a few slides with some of our test data. So as you can see, I wore the same shirt, just so Edge AI it's basically a low latency pipeline that supports a large range of AI models that can be applied to video streams to provide real-time analytics, and also does object tracking and AI augmentation. And the object tracking is similar to what you'd find in a Tesla, tracking cars on the road and whatnot. And augmentation is once you've discovered something, I want to then dive deep onto that object, for instance. So in this case, it's a frame from a video of me And our test pipeline effectively just runs videos through the AI, and it outputs a few keyframes every now and then just so that we can have confidence in the detections. But yeah, so you can see it's detected I've got a backpack and those are where my faces and eyes are, and that is that square over my face is what would get extracted to do face recognition, things like that. So the applications for all this is, I don't know, queue time estimation, people counting, abandoned objects detection, number plate reading, car or truck counting, gesture detection, like people with their hands in the air in a bank, maybe that triggers something. Age and sex estimation for demographics to trigger advertisements. I don't know, do car park recognition, like is there an empty car park? Effectively, the system we're building just allows you to put in any TensorFlow AI model, worked with most of the sort of common use cases or the common data outputs from those models, and built an extensible system with the aim to have like super low latency. And and we're working with partners like AOpen so that we run on their hardware with acceleration and things like that. But the aim is to have low latency. So if you overload that device with streams and AI compute, instead of say slowing down the detection, it just drops some frames. But anytime it makes a detection, we're sub-second real time is the aim.
Yeah, cool. And that's, I can potentially see for our clients, obviously, car parking and various different things, the queue time is quite interesting, particularly for, getting through security gates and buildings and things like that, even down to detecting, if a room's being cleaned and everyone's left, for example, where we're using catering. So, if a room's been catered or something like that, and the caterers haven't cleaned up the room yet, but everyone's left, we might be able to set off triggers and things like that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
really, really cool, and particularly the fact of working with that edge hardware as well is something that's really exciting for the platform as well. And as I said, partners like AOpen, who have got the hardware that support what we need to do, which makes things even better from our side of things. So yeah, really cool. Thanks for showing us through all that stuff, Steve. And it really goes to I guess show the power and the breadth of the platform in terms of sprinkling some AI over the top of that, and the things that we can potentially move on to doing from where we're
Mm.
at now. Just from me as a user, and doing a lot of test bookings and stuff, I'm really excited just to be able to talk to the AI and get it to do a bunch of things for me. That certainly just speeds up so much time. So certainly to yourself and the rest of the team that's been working on this in the background, there's some awesome work. As I said, we're not quite ready to launch this out into production yet. It is in a really good stage of testing though with the product, as you just saw with Steve's demo. But I would like to say that we'll potentially see this rolling out into production somewhere around January, February of 2024. So kicking the year off 2024 on the right foot with some AI enhancements to PlaceOS, really big feature change. Hopefully also coinciding with our native app as well for the PlaceOS Workplace app on native devices, Android and iOS, which is also really cool.
Yeah, very exciting.
So very exciting. So I think for this evening, that probably brings us to a close. As I said, depending on if you're watching this after we've gone live, absolutely feel free to reach out to us with any questions that you might have, or if you wanted a more in-depth demo on any of the things that we've covered tonight, the emergency contacts, concierge features, or obviously the AI stuff that we've spoken about. We'd be more than happy to go through that with you in some more detail. As that Steve loves talking about AI, so we set up a meeting and go through some things. You can do that via our help desk, as I said, or through our sales channels, account managers, and whatnot. We'd be more than happy to help you. I guess we'll look at when the next one of these is going to fall at, with Christmas and all of those things coming up. We may not see you back here again until next year, but I'm sure you'll receive some notifications about that. As always, these will be available on LinkedIn and various other channels if you want to go back and watch what we've discussed tonight. So on that note, I think we'll bid you all both a good day and a good night, depending on where you're watching us. Really appreciate your time, and thanks for joining us again on another PlaceOS product live update. And we'll be back with you again shortly with some more exciting news on the PlaceOS product. So stay tuned. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, all.